So I practice in the western suburbs in Mumbai city and was fellowship trained with Tony Gibbon, whom I used to call a madman because he used to do 11 cases in a day, and he said he was the best in top 5% in the country because he used to do every TKR in 30 minutes. So please don't go after the timing because nobody could match the timings. So valgus knees are a problem. Basically, the deformity is much less common than the varus knees, and it is mainly on the femoral side. There is a distal bone deficiency, posterior condylar deficiency, which can complicate your femoral component positioning. You have to go into the etiology. You have to find out whether it is fixed or correctable, which has been very clearly outlined in the previous talks, and you have to determine the degree of correctability. MCL is a firm endpoint. You will be able to assess the MCL clinically also to some extent. Thigh girth is important because many times these patients are obese, and even after a correction they may not be happy with the correction. So you need not overcorrect, and you need to warn these patients about that. Patellar tracking, which may require lateral releases, are important. Secondary foot changes are important. This patient of mine had a hallux varus, which we ignored, but she had a planovalgoid foot as well. Spinal involvement is extremely common because in India we see patients who come to us after a very long period of time and they have a secondary spine involvement. So don't hesitate to do MRIs, don't hesitate to do spinal surgery opinions, but most of the time the surgeons will advise you to go ahead with the knee first because many times the back settle down. There are various classifications. Dr. Ranawat's classification is well known, mild, moderate, severe, depending upon the degree of valgus deformity between 5 to 10, 10 to 20, and more than 20. Dr. Mullaji came out with a more comprehensive classification depending upon the intactness of the MCL, in which the type 1, 2, 3, 4 are when the MCL is intact, where he classified them as correctable, fixed, one with a hyperextension deformity and one with a fixed flexion deformity, and the ones which are with the incompetent MCL are the 5 and 6, where you have a severe valgus deformity and you may have extra articular deformities along with the valgus. So you can plan your level of constraints accordingly after classifying these. Standard scanograms have been discussed, so we won't go into the details. Medial parapatellar approach is preferred by the most, but some centers in the world are doing the lateral approach, but you have to be careful. I wouldn't venture into it if you are not routinely doing it, because sometimes there may be a problem with the closure. Tibial tubercle osteotomy has been described. Iridian Morgan-Jones and Cardiff does them routinely, especially for his revision cases with severe valgus deformities. The core issues again are the various which have been outlined over here, and one has to determine that the femoral cut, there should be a particular level to which you can cut medially. You should not overcut, and usually limit your cutting to up to 8 millimeters. The lateral cut may be hardly 2 or 3 millimeters, or sometimes it may be even a 0. So you need not get finicky about it, because that could be due to the posterior and the distal condyle wear and remodeling of the femur. So tips for the distal femur entry is it should be slightly medial, that you can trace it to the anatomical axis. This is because of the remodeling which happens. And a valgus cut angle of 3 degrees usually accommodates for the remodeling. So don't go for the 5, 6, 7 degree valgus cut, and usually 3 degree valgus cut suffices for the valgus knees. If the knee is going into hyperextension, please be careful and do not increase the depth of the cut, rather decrease the depth of the cut. Medial side never more than 8, and don't over resect on the lateral side, otherwise you will end up raising the joint line. Please keep the possibility of hypoplasia of the condyle in mind, because you may land up internally rotating the femoral component. Referencing can be done with Whiteside's line and epicondylar axis, because posterior condylar referencing here can be dodgy. We spoke about the valgus cut angle to 3 degrees. There have been papers. Dr. Mullaji has done a lot of study on this, where he has come to the conclusion that even 5 to 7 degree may cause an unacceptable error in the planning. So many times surgeons have nowadays started calculating the valgus angle after drawing. But in a valgus knee, remember, there is a chance that you might still overcorrect, and that is why you should restrict a valgus angle to up to 3 and be very careful. In a varus knee, you might be wanting to do more drawings. Tibia is usually in valgus, but it is not the primary deformity. There may be secondary changes, and there may be lateral tibial plateau deficiency. So do the tibial cut in a standard way, which is perpendicular to the mechanical axis. If the tibial plateau is deformed, then almost no bone is resected laterally. Please take that into consideration, and medially try to undercut rather than overcut, because usually you don't follow the same rule like a varus knee, where you take 10 off on the lateral side. Releases lateral osteophytes first. You can then start releasing the IT band from the Gerdy's tubercle, and if you're not happy, you can do the pie crusting of the IT band and try to lengthen the IT band a bit. Additional release, a posterolateral corner release can be done, which is described by Insol as well, which is a pie crust technique, and in that one has to be careful. We'll come to that. And in the last set, one can release the lateral collateral ligament and the popliteus. Personal level, I never do this unless it is a real dire straits situation, because otherwise the knee can become really unstable and you will end up with a constraint. Popliteus can be released only if your knee is really tight in flexion. Otherwise, most of the time we'll end up preserving the popliteus. Remember, you may require to do a lateral retinacular release for the patella when there is a maltracking of the patella. So gap balancing in extension has to be done first, and you must use your laminar spreaders. See, there is a trapezoidal extension gap over here. So you can do the posterolateral release and posterolateral corner release along with the iliotibial band. The knee usually is not balanced in flexion in a valgus knee, but Dr. Mullaji has come out with a paper which was in 2022, where he highlighted that there are certain situations where you will have to balance the knee even in the flexion along with some soft tissue components. So you can go through this paper. It is beyond the scope of this lecture at the moment, but please be aware of the peroneal nerve and warn the patient beforehand about these issues. So these are the various ways the releases are done, and try to preserve the superior lateral genicular artery, which was also highlighted in one of our earlier talks. Posterolateral deficiency, we already spoke that the femoral component can get internally rotated. So you will have to bear in mind the transepicondylar axis and the Whiteside's line. Otherwise, you will internally rotate the femoral component. You may have to use a distal augment in order to centralize your jig. Otherwise, you will end up with a rotation of the femoral component. There is one more trick which you can do when you are balancing the knee in flexion is, please don't do any soft tissue release, but after cutting the tibia, you can put the cutting block which is parallel to the cut surface of the tibia, the femoral cutting block, after putting your spacer in. So that can, this is the Ranawat's technique which will prevent you from mal-rotating the femoral component. Constraint implant decision has to be taken on table. If you are not happy, I'll just take 2 minutes more. Then you can do certain structure releases and otherwise go ahead for a constraint. Now, this is one example of a knee with a valgoid deformity. She had refused TKR for about 10 years, after which she came to us. And you can see the gait which was described earlier in one of the talks. There is a thrust while walking. How many in the audience will use a constraint? This is the X-ray with a medial opening. Oh, many are not using that, I am happy to see. Okay, so standard versus a constrained knee. This was a scanogram which was poorly done, so I won't highlight. So we landed up without a constraint because it was quite a bit of a correctable deformity on table. So please beware, even in the earlier talks of one of our speakers, constrained knee is not very good news as far as long-term results are concerned. So please learn the art of balancing. If you are able to balance the knee well, you may get away without a constraint if you have even an incompetent MCL. I'm not saying a completely incompetent, but an attenuated MCL. Similar way, another case, a valgus deformity. Scanogram showed quite a severe deformity, but we landed up with a stable knee just by putting a standard implant, but I preferred to put a stem here as the knee for the long-term result. The patient was slightly younger. So this is the gait after the patient is walking. And remember, because of the thigh girth, you may feel that there is a little bit of a valgus component, but the knee is absolutely corrected. Implant selection we have already spoken about, and you may want to use a constrained or a hinged knee replacement, but remember, the long-term results are guarded because you will end up taking more bone also. So technical tips in the valgus knee are, please plan to fail or fail to plan. It is very important, and you don't get wiser after the drapes are put on. That is what Simon Royston says from Sheffield. Assess correctability, beware of hyperextension, hypoplastic lateral femoral condyle, cut tibia 90 degrees, femur at least 3 degree valgus, and balance the extension gap first. You might want to undercut the distal femur and pie crust the IT band if required. Last slide, which probably Sunny can borrow with me in his next lecture. In the presidential address to the Knee Society meeting, Insol said mechanical alignment still is a gold standard, but that doesn't mean I'm against robotics. Thank you very much.